Welcome to Sumbits, where we decode the PowerSchool development experience. Sumbits is brought to you by MBA. Let's start the show.
Welcome again, everybody, to another episode of Sumbits. Today we have yet another special guest. I know I tend to get a little excited about our guests, but I am especially excited about today's guest. You may know him if you've ever been a part of the PSUG community or the PowerSchool community as a whole. You may know the name Adam Larsen. He is joining us today for a little episode that we're going to call This or That. We're going to go through a couple little debates on what to use in certain situations. But as always, I'm also joined by Ryan Cockrum and Eric Scheidel. And of course, we are having some cocktails today. Today, I am drinking Old Tub. If you're not familiar, it's actually a Jim Beam product. Some pretty good unfiltered bourbon. Definitely delicious. As you can tell, I've had a little bit of this. Not just
Isn't
today.
that your wife's pet name for you as well?
Heyo.
Old Tub.
I did just turn 40, so that may be a little too close to home.
Wow.
What are you guys drinking today?
Ryan.
Well, you know what? Right now, I don't have quite the selection that Sean has, so I stick with things that I know and I like. I like this Bullet right now, the Bullet Bourbon Frontier Whiskey. Sean could tell you more about it than I could. I can just tell you that I like it.
We won't get too deep into that.
So on this end of the mic, I'm sticking with my old faithful. You've seen me drink the Spotted Cow. It's by New Glarus Brewery here in Wisconsin, where you can't get it outside of Wisconsin. So come visit me if you want. I will introduce you all to New Glarus. This is a Dancing Man wheat. I'm drinking this week. This week
over towards your head because I literally can't see it at all. There we go. Nice.
Okay. I'm drinking this for a couple reasons. One, because it's good, and two, to spite Ryan Cockrum. Because our friend Ryan's not a fan of the wheat brews.
No.
Larson, what you got going there?
Well, I am a non-drinker, so I have a craft root beer. This is a Stewart's Classic root beer. It is made with cane sugar. It is aged in an oak barrel. I don't think that part's true.
It could be. You never know.
I like Stewart's lime soda. They make a lime soda that I fancy.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, try it. If you ever like the lime Rickies or anything like that, or like, I don't know if you had Pick a Pops. I don't know if that was a Canadian or a US thing. Yeah, try their lime. Quite tasty.
Let's just assume everything you say is only Canadian.
Yeah, right. Like, I expect Ryan, like, half the things he asks, like, you ever shotgunned molasses at a wedding, standing on your head? I'm like, no, that's only Canada, Ryan. No one else does that.
Is that really?
Well, I guess Ryan's not getting invited to any U.S. weddings. He just shows up with a jug of molasses. I'm ready.
Yeah, right.
Carton.
Oh, they come in cartons?
Yes.
There's my molasses knowledge for you.
Does your milk come in a bag in Canada?
In Ontario, yes, not in Manitoba. It used when I was like under, I don't know, 5, it did, so I have memories of it. But when I visit all my family in Ottawa, they still sell it in the bags there.
Bag of milk.
Yep.
That's a pretty weird thing.
It is. But you think of all the money you save on the cartons, I guess. I don't know. I really don't,
I don't think that's a thing.
It's an interesting thing. It's like it'll come in a jug, like, it doesn't come in a jug. It comes in a bag, and everyone has this jug for milk, and you just cut like the corner off, like you would like back when you used to cut it off of apple juice box, and that's it. You just got your milk a jug, but you don't close it, which was always the weird thing. So it's always sitting there open in your fridge, technically. I don't know, but that's
more weird Canadian things.
Ontario things.
Oh, just Ontario. Sorry,
Yeah.
didn't mean to
I don't
generalize.
know if any other provinces still do it. I know Ontario does it. I know Manitoba doesn't.
Gotcha. Well, hey guys, let's jump right into the meat of things. Anybody that's done customizations inside of PowerSchool has probably used a tool that we all know as CPM, Custom Page Management, right? I would say the majority of us also are aware of a tool called Blue Steel. I do believe that's Tejas that created that, correct? I have not had the pleasure of meeting Tejas, but I know a lot of people have. I've definitely seen Blue Steel. not used it a lot, to be quite honest with you. So this may be more on you guys, but what are your thoughts on CPM versus Blue Steel?
Blue Steel is tight. I know Tejas pretty well. So he's in Illinois. He's at Glenbard. So he's in part of our Illinois user group. So I get to see him pretty frequently, which is nice. And got some of the betas early when he was working on it. So it really filled some of the gaps that you would expect in a good editor. It added tabs, it added searching. You can delete whole folders. Some of that stuff is awesome. Some of the trade-offs there are because you can search the entire web root to find something. That means the whole web root has to be loaded in order for you to have like type ahead searching. And so it is slower for it to load initially. Which is why, like, if I'm going to like only edit one file, I might use regular garden variety CPM, then use Blue Steel. But if I'm like setting up a session to work for a long time, I definitely have Blue Steel up. Now, like regular CPM has tabs on it now too, but I think for me the biggest feature, the one that really sets it apart outside of all the other stuff we already talked about, is that you can filter and just look at all of the files that are attached to a single plugin.
Absolutely.
So like, for me, when I'm building a new plugin, I will kind of build the shell out on my hard drive in Git, get it all built. And even if I don't have anything in there, I'll just build like blank files. I'll make it a plugin, I'll upload it, and then I will filter that plugin, and then I make the changes to those files individually. I'm not navigating the like 100 different folders that are in the web root. I'm just looking at the things that I care about. And that makes my workflow go so much faster.
I do very much the same thing. And I agree with all those points. And then there was a point that I was going to make that I already forgot now. But I do agree with that. I don't even go jump in it for one file. Like you're saying, I don't find the loading time to be prohibitive at all to me. Like if I still want to just do in one file, sure, I'm going to jump in there. One thing that I found, one trade-off, I thought you were actually going to go this way. One trade-off I found is that lately in the past year or so, and I think this was since PowerSchool switched to the new CPM, the ability to create new files, edit core files. If you want to edit a core file, it doesn't work inherently. You know what I'm talking about? No,
I'm just like, I never do it, so I wouldn't have encountered. I haven't edited a core file since 2015, Ryan. What are you talking about?
No, exactly. So now, if I found, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm thinking the wrong thing here, but when you want to go like in the old pre-new CPM for PowerSchool, you could, no problem, edit a core file. Since the new CPM, if you want to go and just edit a core file, it doesn't just inherently work. You got to pretty much go into CPM, even just submit it, just so that, and then you can access it in Blue Steel. And you can always access in Blue Steel before that, but it won't save. I can't remember if it spins or spits an error. That's the only hang up. But from previous episodes and, for the most part, I do everything with insertion points anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Eric, you're looking very judgy.
Yeah. What do you got, Eric?
I'm confused / judgy. 2 questions for you. Could you ever edit a core file with CPM? And number 2, if you could, why would you want to? Or am I misunderstanding the point you're making? Did you say
a copy of it?
Core
like
file?
when you right click a file and you're like, I'm gonna customize this, like the old way,
make a custom version. Forgive me, because when you said edit core file, where my mind went was, I want to modify the content of this core file.
Right.
But what we do in CPM is we make a copy of the core file and modify said copy. Okay. Now the nasty look I was giving you will go away.
Oh, that was a nasty look?
Well, it was intended.
That was an endearing look, I thought.
It's not any nastier than normal.
Those were my bedroom eyes.
The sheepers.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to make you jealous, Larsen. And by the way, I would like to go on record saying that I objected to inviting this gentleman, I'm going to say with air quotes, I felt it was personally a bit of an insult to allow my arch nemesis to join us for an episode of Sumbits.
Here's the thing, though. There's 3 episodes that have been released, and you have invoked a transmogrified version of my name in all 3 of those episodes. And just like Beetlejuice, if you say it 3 times, I'm just going to show up. So here I am.
And I also got to say, there is a hell of a word, transmogrified.
I don't know.
Makes up things.
When something
We'll
gets
have to get
messed
to
up.
Octothorpe later in the episode.
Mr. PhD.
Almost, man. We're on the
Adam,
home stretch.
I feel like you may be a little narcissistic. We never actually used your full name.
Yes.
So you're just assuming things, and you think we're talking about you, but you don't know that.
Someone with a
been
very
talking
similar
about
sounding name who
Saddam
has taught you
Hussein.
very similar things that I've taught you. Is that?
You never know. you don't know my life.
I know enough
So,
about your life.
I do what I want.
Actually,
So I digressed
before
a
we get
bit,
too much
but-
further. Speaking of lives, for the listeners and watchers that don't know Adam, why do we have you on this podcast? What do you know about PowerSchool? Where'd you
Where
get
did
started?
Start with PowerSchool.
I know a bit about PowerSchool. So I'm a psychologist by training, which
So you
may
don't
come
know
as a
anything.
surprise.
PowerSchool.
I don't know anything. No. But I got lost along the way. I think everybody, like how many people do we interact with that even like studied computers in college? Like none, except for maybe Eric. Eric, you studied MIS, right, in college, right?
Yeah, I actually I went to UW for information systems analysis, learned how to be a system analyst, and then I actually wound up going back to school years later to a community college to learn web development.
So you went to University of Winnipeg?
Oh, good Lord. Anyway,
I was not ready for that.
I didn't realize Canada had universities. Thought you guys just like
Oh,
pulled
yeah,
up
we
in
have
igloos.
Top notch. We have U of M as well. Yep.
So
Michigan.
anyway,
Okay, fuck off. Straight.
PG-13 again.
Time mark.
Yeah,
should be a
we
goal
got a nice
for us
little
to
time-
provoke him to
get a
this
time
point
stamp
every
on
episode.
that.
wow.
Poor Adam. So you were saying, sir?
Okay, so yeah, I didn't study computer anything in college, but I'm a nerd. So like even though I was studying psychology twice, I got a bachelor's and a master's in psych, I was always dabbling in web dev. So I ended up working in the schools as a school psychologist, and after about 2 years of that, there was some administrative change in the district where I worked, and what happened was the assistant superintendent became the superintendent, and then the incoming superintendent hired me to do just the data stuff for the district, just like manage all the data things, fix our data workflows. I had been doing some like kind of applied research projects for the district. I was able to run stats and kind of do that work to answer some research type questions. And so what we ended up doing is that spring, like after I'd been hired before I started working, we wanted to get a data warehouse. So we got Pearson and Form, which was like a presentation layer on top of whatever data you want to put into it. And it didn't really merge well with the SIS that we had. So Pearson was like, oh, we also have this SIS that you should get, and it'll bolt onto there a little bit better. And we were like, oh, okay, well, we'll go ahead and do that. So I was supposed to run Inform, and the tech department was supposed to run PowerSchool, like most of the districts would have that work. And we got into it, and it turned out that Inform was not good, and they end-of-lifed it very quickly. And the way I ended up in charge of PowerSchool was that our implementation just didn't go very well. I started my new job on a Monday, and on Tuesday, which was like 2 weeks before school started, the superintendent brought me in and said, we can't take attendance or launch the grade book, and there are 13 days before school starts. We've also burned through all the training that was supposed to occur over the summer. So you're going to have to rely on support and your implementation guy, and good luck. Here you are. So I just dove into it. I read all the help docs and, got going like anybody else would. And then we were like probably a month after that when a secretary was like, this screen doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and everything is going to come unglued if it doesn't work. And I remember talking to the implementation guy, and I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the one who comes in here and says, this screen has to look this way, but I'm telling you, if this screen doesn't look this way, it's not going to go. And he said, oh, well, did you know that PowerSchool was just a website that you can edit, and there's this folder? And I'm like, no. Did you know that at various times in my life I'd worked full-time as a web developer? And he was like, no, we never talked about that. And I said, well, this is the last conversation you and I are going to have because I will just fix everything from here on out. Went into the web root and just started editing streams with reckless abandon. That was back in 2010. So, page fragments and database extensions come around in 13. I started building plugins.
Do you remember what version you were implemented it on?
6.2 was our first one. So the big brand change was 7, which would have been the next summer. So I had 1 year with the stripes. I remember you guys talking about finding old pages. I'm like, I edited this a while back, or somebody did.
So interesting that me, Adam, and Ryan all came in about the same time.
Yes. And I remember talking with you, Adam, in the past about that and exactly that thought. I thought it was funny the different paths you and I came from to get there, right? Because I'm pure from IT and you're obviously from the whole other side of things. But I mean, here we are.
Yeah. And Sean only has an 8th grade education. It's just amazing that we all ended up, doing kind of the same.
We are. That is not true, by the way, listeners. I did pass 9th grade.
It's just 10th grade
my
transcript.
But Indiana just got high schools a couple years ago, so it wasn't really even expected for you to go on. It wasn't compulsory attendance at that point.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And there all of our Indiana listeners.
Yeah, they're out. Remember, Indiana once tried to fix the value of pi at 3.2 at the legislative level. That tells you most of what you need to know about Indiana. Go look it up. It's a true story.
I did not know that. I will definitely look that up at some point.
We'll drop a link in the comments.
Yeah. If anybody has anything to say about that, actually, on that note, I mentioned it last episode as well, but we do have an email address now if you want to reach out to us. It is sumbits@mba-link.com. And if you have something to say about this, I will make sure Adam hears about it.
Booyah. Okay, wait. I got to ask because
1897, by the way.
Because I don't know if you noticed, I had this look on my face when Adam was saying this. There's I don't know whether to call BS on this, and he's just keeping a really good straight face, and this is the truth, or if he's just trying to jack with us. So you looked it up, and it's for real.
On February 6, 1897, Indiana state representatives voted to declare 3.2 the legal value of pi. This bill wasn't actually about legislating a rounded value of pi. It was even more ambitious than that. Bill 246 was a bold attempt to attack an ancient mathematical conundrum with the modern blunt force of legislative fiat.
Yeah, a declaration.
There you go.
Wow. I'm going to submit a proposal that we officially call infinity equal to 376. Close
you
enough.
go right ahead and do that in Wisconsin.
I'll say, and there's
take your own state now with you.
That there's the most cows you want in the pasture at one time. I'm telling you.
We've gotten way off now. But
all right.
So on that note, we have gotten off. Can I loop back because I don't want to move on to another topic. I have thoughts on the Blue Steel versus CPM.
Well,
I'd like to hear.
You're a web root, and that's what I actually kind of want to throw that. You're a web root man.
I am a web root man. So people always ask me how I feel about Blue Steel, and my answer is I don't know.
Exactly.
For me, CPM Blue Steel is nothing more than a place to copy and paste. Now there's a huge if to that. It's because I'm a full-time developer and I do my development on a server that I have network access to. I can directly access the file system on the servers that I work on. So because of that, I have my text editor set up and I can code things into my text editor to make my life so much easier than it's ever going to be on Blue Steel or CPM or any other tool that someone builds into PowerSchool. So for me, I would strongly argue if you can have access to your file system, that not using either of those tools is the best approach. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
So I do want to chime in on this, and I think it will segue to the next this or that. As not a full-time developer, as not someone that does near as much as development as you guys, CPM works beautifully for me for troubleshooting. It's being able to have that quick access of here's the core page, here's the custom page. It gives me everything that I need to know, with the blue links, knowing that page is customized. I can look at it. The only thing that I would really need to pull that out to do is on some of those larger pages to do like a KDiff or to do some sort of difference checking to see what is different about the customized version versus the core version. But where I'm saying that this might segue into the next topic is in the same way, especially on those larger pages, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to, take all of that code and pull it out and put it into your text editor. And I think that's what we all kind of do. But for me, Blue Steel is more than I would ever need as the quote armchair developer, and we've kind of used that term before. And I think a lot of our listeners, CPM is going to do what they need to do. I don't think CPM was ever meant to be a full-fledged text editor, a full-fledged development.
Like an IDE.
Yeah. So, I mean, for what it is, I personally feel CPM does a great job, especially now with the new pieces that they put into it. Blue Steel is a great tool, depending on what your role is, I think.
So when you're talking about the troubleshooting, and this is actually echoes back to something Adam even said when you're trying to deal with one page. And I'm writing notes down so I don't forget what my thoughts were.
What a nerd.
One thing that actually resonates with both of those items is the publish button and the customize button. Sorry, actually, it's more actually the customize button and the publish button. One thing that drives me nuts, and you can see Adam nodding, and he knows. How many times have you scrolled down 1,000 lines of code and then been like, crap, I didn't hit customize yet? And that's why I like Blue Steel over even for one page, even when I need to do one thing. And for those who I haven't been clear enough for, CPM requires you to click on the customize button before you do anything. Whereas Blue Steel, you just go in and you just haphazardly. I mean, that's those.
And honestly, I'm going to go back and call that a positive for CPM, because if you are in troubleshooting
the dangerous
mode,
people, right?
Yeah. I mean, for your regular user that just needs to go look at something, there is no fear of, oh crap, I accidentally typed something. A cat walked across my keyboard and now I don't know where that text is.
It's funny because you know what? I was literally on about to say, for those that are know enough to be dangerous, and making it a pro for I don't know, me almost, I don't know. You took that and you went in another way, and it's true. You're right. You're 100% right, because that does prevent you from making those accidental mistakes. It does prevent you from going in there. I mean, even the simplest mistakes of hitting just a keystroke and then publishing it. So, I mean, there is that. But then
I just know that I don't accidentally go to CPM unless I'm ready to do some work. Like I'm there to make some changes. I'm not there to look at stuff, but I can see why somebody might be.
Now, are you saying sorry.
I just think it's a name that I got to click that button every time. I will say though, it becomes a habit. Like you get used to, click this, hit submit, click this, hit submit. But when I do use Blue Steel, it's refreshing to just be able to Control S and then go look at how the page is updated. It is nice not having to mess around with that extra button. I don't know why, that just needs to be fixed. Somebody needs to report it and be like, hey, would you make this do a thing? Just.
Did you know that you can Control S in CPM now?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was huge for me, and I've even found sometimes that if I paste in there and hit Control S without even hitting the customize button again, it continues to work.
I'm always hitting Control S, so I mean, whether if it didn't work in the past, I didn't know, but I learned now, and it's almost kind of funny because I do it and then it does a refresh thing. I'm like, oh shit, but it doesn't, you know. But I actually kind of want to
him out today.
Yeah. Well, we waited an hour to start recording.
So Control S does not stand for that word.
Yeah. One thing though on it's not so much related to it's kind of related. It's like it's in the middle here, I guess, but between CPM, Blue Steel, whatever. It's with Angular, and it's even something I was dealing with today. And this is more of a Chrome Firefox thing, and maybe we can discuss this down the way.
I would like to get.
Is that on there?
It's not, but I have it on my notes. Yeah. So
let's just do a prelude there. With Angular, do you guys know Control Shift R, like to clear cache refresh? So when I'm doing my Angular stuff, that's fine in Chrome. It'll clear my cache. It'll reload my scripts. It'll do whatever I've changed. Fine, and this is regardless of whether you're doing WebRoot, Blue Steel, or CPM. But in Firefox, not when you're dealing with like a properly built, I guess, Angular application where you have all your directives separated out and modularized and your
separate files. Yeah.
Right. And so you can go into your options in Firefox and clear cache, but of course then you have to relog in to PowerSchool. And I mean, it's extra steps I don't want to deal with. Whereas Chrome, I just Control Shift R and boom, my new scripts load. So there's we're talking about right now, of course, Blue Steel versus CPM, but on those notes, and I'm a Firefox guy, I got to give credit to Chrome. Man, I prefer that functionality because I hate having to log back into PowerSchool every time I make a change to see if it's working.
Question. What does Control F5 do on Firefox? Does that clear the cache without booting you out?
Control Shift R, it does the same.
No. What does Control F5 do on Firefox?
That should just do a regular refresh.
Well, it's a refresh with a cleared cache without deleting your cookies.
Correct.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Maybe I don't know something.
Another thing that I'll often do.
It's very possible I don't know something. I'm going to try this out now.
In Chrome's developer console on the network tab, there's a disable cache checkbox. I don't know if Firefox has anything like that, but I'll use that when I'm developing in Chrome.
I mean, obviously, we've all noticed differences in behavior between Chrome and Firefox. So I'm not going to say one way or the other whether that is the case here or not. But I found Chrome is better at handling clearing the cache with Angular overall, better than Firefox. And I've always been a Firefox user, so I'm going to try the Control F5 now for sure, just to make sure.
Yeah. So I was going to go back and go a different direction, but I feel like we're already on this topic. Browsers. I mean, we're already talking about Chrome versus Firefox. Mm-hmm. In your development experiences, Ryan, you've obviously kind of stuck with Firefox as your preferred. Adam and Eric, do you have a preferred browser, and is there any particular reason? This is another this or that. For our listeners, is there really a benefit to using one over the other, or is it just kind of personal preference?
Adam, I'll defer to you if you have an opinion.
Oh, sure. So I used Firefox for a long time, and then shifted to Chrome. I think when Firefox kind of got slow, there was a time where it had really logged itself down before they must have rewritten the engine or something. And I switched to Chrome and I stuck with it. I am used to where all the tools are. I don't know that I like it better than Firefox. It's just I've used it now for a number of years that I know what all the keys do, like Ryan was describing. Like I know that this does this and this does that. I like what Eric said earlier, which is bring up that developer console and exactly what each of those checkboxes does, like turn things on and off. I write JavaScript right in the console sometimes if I want to experiment really quickly with rapid prototyping on an idea. The one thing I missed from Firefox being a Chrome user now is those live bookmark folders. I love those. I love the ability to have a folder that you subscribe to. It's like an RSS feed, and it just doesn't exist in Chrome. Every now and again I read that that's something that people ask for, and they've just never added it for whatever reason. I have not found the debugging tools to be as compelling in Firefox. I know like a Firebug was a thing some years ago, and those extensions were out.
Yep.
But like the other person that does PowerSchool in my district, he's a Firefox guy and loves using that developer console. How about you, Eric?
So I really think everybody should be using IE.
You mean Edge?
Are you like are you the state of Wisconsin like vaccination sign up page that must be run in IE? Is that your orientation?
Oh my gosh, right. They've had those things. It's like, oh, this relies on Microsoft proprietary code that only runs in the IE browser. Oh, good Lord.
Best viewed with IE 5.0.
FYI, quick interjection here. The Control F5 doesn't help me update my script because I just did one. I just tried one out. I had a directive, and I added just a console log to see if it would pop out on the console. I Control F5, it didn't pop out, so it doesn't do anything helpful.
JavaScript caching is like pernicious in PowerSchool. Like you're dealing with browser issues, and then I swear PowerSchool has another layer of caching in the background that causes you to have problems.
And I've also experienced issues with certain districts. So, first of all, there's the image server. Totally. There's that, and then I've just found it's dependent on a firewall sometimes. There's firewall caching, but nonetheless, what I just did now. I'm not gonna bother logging into Chrome now because I know. But Chrome, what I just did with adding that console log there, Chrome would have worked. And right now, what I just did with Firefox, it didn't. So, I mean, there's a reason for me to right now contemplate really seriously moving over to Chrome.
So I want to say, because I only answered jokingly earlier, I do not use IE. By the way, I'm upgrading now and getting classy.
Wow.
For those not with the video, I'm upgrading to a Bush Light. But I
don't know if that's an upgrade.
It's hydrating.
I would just echo Adam's sentiments. Like, I don't have an argument that Chrome is better than Firefox. But I used to use Firebug back in the day. Adam, you referenced Firebug.
Me too.
And
tell me if I'm wrong, but in the Firebug era, that was before developer tools were standard in browsers, right? It was the only way to have developer tools, right?
No, there was. Sorry.
Firebug was my first foray into using developer tools on a browser.
There was, but then eventually Firefox stopped supporting it. But you could, and because I stuck with Firebug for a while, there was
and for our listeners, Firebug was an extension, which used to be a huge pro for Firefox, because Firefox had an entire extension library that you could go find things, and Firebug was kind of what turned into your developer tools that you're having a stock browser now.
And developer tools even had a theme for Firebug. At one point, I don't know, maybe it still does, but at one point, developer tools had a theme for Firebug for the people like me and obviously you that were like not ready to get rid of Firebug. But I stuck with Firebug. And an interesting side note here, there was a integration, like a bridge for it that would make the deprecated version still work with Firefox. But ended up killing one of the things that I really like about Firefox versus Chrome, the ability to inspect print previews.
Like throw the print style sheet on and then have it pretend like it's going to print. Yeah.
No, I'm talking literally run the print preview. You can right click and inspect elements in Firefox, whereas in Chrome you always right click and you get that, you see the embed. And you see that embed PDF, whatever that function is, and you can't do nothing with it. But with that, whatever that enhancement I had to, and this took me a year to figure out because I never pinpointed it on this.
Ryan's a slow learner.
But that's what killed it. And I remember it would make it literally so that whenever you ran the inspect, it would be just a blank screen. And I'm like, damn, what's going on here? And then eventually I figured it out. And then I just switched to pure Firefox developer tools. But yeah, I mean, there's, I know my experience, the Firebug and what happened with it and where it went.
Yeah, so I'm definitely hearing that it's a lot of personal preference, really no benefit to one over the other, except for maybe some shortcut keys that work in one more than the other. I do want to reference back to what I was talking about with CPM and Blue Steel. A lot of times what you're going to do is you're going to go in and grab that code and pull it back out into a text editor. I would say that this more so than anything else is going to see a large difference and a large debate on which text editor is best. Thoughts, fellas?
Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better.
Notepad. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Well, the thing about Word is that you, I know it takes a long time, but you can highlight the letters and then change the color to make it stand out better. It's cumbersome, but it's really helpful.
You can make italics and bold.
Yeah, right.
Sassy minx.
Are you a lawyer? Like, you're really trying to sell this too. Like,
yeah. You know that problem Eric had earlier where he's like, I wasn't sure if he was making it up or if he was telling the truth. My mom says the same thing. She's like, I can never tell when you're just feeding me a line.
Dude, I hear 90% the same argument.
It's a line.
It's on brand for me. So I used Notepad++ for a long time, and I know that.
But before we
good.
Our OS. Because
I'm a Windows guy. I've only ever worked on a real actual computer before.
I believe we're all Windows guys, so that will make a difference for this conversation.
I haven't used a Mac since English 105 at Iowa State University in the fall of 2001.
Fair.
That's the last time.
I'm going to say yes, Windows here too. I don't think there's anybody in this conversation who's a Mac person, which is unfortunate. Well, I hope we get some comments about that. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you are a developer out there or do some development and use a Mac, feel free to send us in your thoughts on a good text editor for Mac.
And I'm not someone who's against.
There's definitely good ones.
Like, so, I mean, I know in the MBA work environments, John, he's a Linux guy, and he, you know what, I like Linux. I just I don't know it enough to know, you know it. If you know it, you're good with it. And then of course, I know Forrest, he's sitting there with his Mac now. So, I mean, yeah. I'm not never been one of those purists about which OS is which OS. I mean, I fully support Macs because I mean their slogan, whatever, it just works. Whatever is that it? Is it just works? It does.
It was at one point, yeah.
And it is a good.
The comment about OS was more deemed towards when we're talking about the text editors that we use.
Yeah.
And we prefer
what's available where
is going to be available on Windows because that's what we use. So we don't want to leave out our Mac users. Well, it's just not what we use. So unfortunately, it's not going to be part of this conversation.
I got three opinions as far like three different tools I use. So Notepad++, purely because of the ability to compare one-to-one file. That is the only time I use Note++ at this point, because I can quickly drop into the tabs there.
You said no plus.
No plus.
No plus.
Did I say a lot? Notepad++.
You said a few pluses.
Okay. Notepad++. When it comes to working on an actual project, then I use brackets. And that's because it just kind of got put in front of me, and honestly at a PSU, and ever since then I just went with it. And then when I need to actually compare entire projects, entire directories, WinMerge. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It was just a little gem I found at one point. Because that one I can literally compare entire directories from one to the other, which I mean maybe Notepad++ can, but the point is that WinMerge doesn't just have it as simply as that, whereas I can just open up 2 tabs and compare 2 tabs. So I mean, for me, those are my things when I'm trying to figure out troubleshooting for a district or something where this one file's not working right and I can get the core file, whatever, boom, Notepad++. When I'm trying to figure out if I have the right plugin, oh crap, is this the version I saved? Yeah. Then I'm going to use WinMerge. But then if I'm working, brackets.
So generally speaking, you're a brackets guy.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think, Adam, you also mentioned Notepad++. Don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure both Notepad++ and brackets are cross-platform.
I believe so. That's one of the reasons I like in my customization intro, I would talk about Notepad++ working everywhere because I think it does.
Yeah.
WinMerge, I'm not sure because I actually think I have a buddy who's in development and I think he was having trouble with.
Well, the name of the product alone makes me question whether it would be
kind of where
right.
I was going.
So what do you use, Adam, you said you started with Notepad++.
Yeah, so when I was a full-time web developer, I was into Dreamweaver, like even before Adobe owned it, when it was still a Macromedia product. So I used that for a long time.
Wait, can I hit pause there for a sec? I'm sorry, I'm totally interrupting right now, but I've heard Dreamweaver so many times. I know a lot of people have used it. I've never even seen it. Dreamweaver had a lot of like drag and drop and user interface type.
I thought it was a very.
Can you talk for a second about Dreamweaver?
What's the big web tool that I'm drawing a blank on right now?
Dreamweaver.
Not Dreamweaver, but the one for everybody to make. I'm just trying to draw an analogy for people who, when you want to make
like a Squarespace or a Wix or something like that.
No, I mean yes, but no, the big one. Oh, I can't remember it right now.
You'll think of it,
dude.
No, everyone, you guys all know the name too. When you want to make a website, but you want to just like code it.
Like Joomla?
No. Man, you're all coming up short. You're all worse than me now.
You think about it for a second.
I'm giving you all the hints.
You've done.
So again, sorry to interrupt. I just wonder if you could describe Dreamweaver.
And then forgets. So Dreamweaver, yeah. So it was a Macromedia product, I think, at the beginning. And it's meant to be something that you can just like Word, you just sort of draw the table and it's going to do all the TDs and the TRs and all that stuff for you. And then you can toggle between a WYSIWYG. Okay, so WordPress. Like Joomla, but a different one, WordPress. Yes. Okay. Got it. That's a content management system. That's not really a web dev environment, but it allows you to make articles. Yeah, it's in between coding it yourself and using a tool like Dreamweaver. Okay, so Dreamweaver, you can do this WYSIWYG, this what you see is what you get type editing, which was really cool. And at the very beginning, I'd used it for a little bit of that. But then you can very quickly toggle back over to your code view and edit the code as you want to. And it had syntax highlighting in it, which was great. But it also had this combined view where you could see the visual, like the canvas of the HTML above you. And then down below, you could see like the code or vice versa. And as you were editing one, it would edit the other. So as you were editing the canvas, it would edit the code. And if you're doing the code, it would edit this up here with a quick like refresh. Which is like, if you think about when you were first learning HTML tags,
great learning tool.
Isn't that amazing? Because the whole essence of learning is feedback, right? So like I need to know that when I do this thing, the cause and effect that has to happen. Right. It has to be as tight of a loop of feedback as possible. Well, you don't even need a server to do that. You're just editing this on your hard drive.
Is that live pages then?
Yeah, well, it just with HTML, a browser can render that. You don't even need a server to do it. It's not like PHP or not even like JavaScript. It's just markup. So like that program itself could render it inside. It was not a big deal.
That is really cool.
The reason why I continued to use Dreamweaver for a number of years, and I really don't do much web dev anymore outside of PowerSchool, is that it had an integrated FTP client. And so as you were saving and making changes to stuff, you could hit Control-Shift-U and it would upload it up to the server. And then you could cut over to your browser and then hit refresh and see whatever had happened. So if you're like on two screens, that's fantastic. That's better than like in 1999 when I was editing a Notepad, I was using WSFTP to upload and then going over to Internet Explorer and hitting refresh
Right.
You know, on my 640 by 480 monitor, mom telling me to get off the computer. Like those are the flashbacks of what
I'm
really
expecting
that looked like. Yeah. Hey, I need you to hang up because somebody's going to call. So I did use Dreamweaver for a number of years. That's a good question. And it's a great tool. If I were doing more web dev, I'd probably still use that because of the syntax highlighting and the FTP. And then I used, in most of my early days of PowerSchool stuff, I would use Notepad++. One of the reasons I picked that is because it had a theme that looked just like Dreamweaver for the syntax highlighting. So if I was in one or the other, it was a solarized dark theme. I used that one a lot in both of those programs, and I was familiar with the coloration of both of them.
Is that why you have theme in SQL Studio?
That is why. That's the reason that's one of the themes available in there. But I have shifted to a tool that you have not mentioned, either of you guys, is VS Code. So I moved to VS Code probably 2 years ago, and it is fantastic. And everybody I show it to converts instantly. It's pretty fantastic.
I hear VS and think of Visual Studio.
It is the same VNS. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's from Microsoft, but it's not like it's free. It's just it's like their code editor. It's like Brackets, but Microsoft made it instead of Brackets is Adobe, right?
VS Code, and I got Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, it's just they just don't have Visual Studio like prominently in the name when you have the program up. They just call it VS Code.
Gotcha.
It's that, but it's not Visual Studio like for building
apps,
Visual Basic applications, .NET stuff, right? It's not that. Although I suppose you could write in it, but it wouldn't compile it for you. It doesn't have the compiler to build the executable. So another thing that we haven't talked about in the editing land of things is Git and your source control. So for a number of years, I would use Notepad++ for my editing, and then I would use SourceTree from Atlassian to do my Git management. It's a visual Git client. And I alternate between doing it in SourceTree and doing it in command line so that I would know the commands. But man, when I started using VS Code and it has Git integrated right into it and a terminal right in it, now not only am I like editing the code live and doing whatever I need to do, but it will actually show me which line, like how old it is. This was edited 3 versions of it ago, and this is the change that you were making when you did this. I'm like, okay, well, why did I do that? Well, that solved this problem. 6 months ago when I was doing this other thing to solve this problem. And then it has a
simultaneously created these 3 other problems.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that usually how that works, right?
But hey, the thing about Git is that at least you know why you broke it. Well, I broke this because I was fixing this thing, and so now 6 months later, when I discover the new bug that I created, at least I know what I was doing.
So for any of our users, I feel like, if you don't mind, I need to interject here and talk for a second about Git. Because I feel like a lot of our listeners are users who aren't used to working on big projects or collaboration type projects. And maybe, what is this Git that
even smaller projects
speaks of?
Honestly, I do want to actually get into that. I know this is the this or that episode, but I do want to get into that a little bit. I want to hear Eric's thoughts on his text editor. He's got some really good reasons. He's actually the reason that I switched text editors. I was also a Notepad++ guy, just because it's what I knew, right? When I first started at MBA, sitting down at Eric's desk and the things that he was doing on his text editor was like, whoa, like that's awesome. What is that? I want that. And I'll let Eric go into that a little bit. And just a warning, I do believe this is going to be a 2-episode.
And Eric prefers what he prefers because he doesn't practice Santeria.
I ain't got no crystal ball.
He had $1 million.
I'm not sure how we segued from point A to point B there, but well done, sir, nonetheless.
So, Eric, talk to us about what text editor you use.
Yeah, so I have heard, I've tried out the old VS Code, right? I think it's VS Code. And and I didn't think it was bad, but I'd heard about it. I checked it out, but by the time I checked it out, I'd already been using the tool that I use now for a long time. And I'm going to give a shout out to somebody that Ryan referred to earlier in the day, John. John's one of the coders here at MBA.
Brilliant.
And he got me hooked on an editor called Sublime Text. And you know what, Adam? I remember talking to you about this once because I took over a project from you. After you became a dad, there was a project that you had to move on from, and I took over this project from you. And it required, you were talking earlier about an FTP connection, right? So one of the things that we always look for as a developer is, consolidation, fewer keystrokes, fewer mouse clicks. And you talked about the old days when you had to copy and then run the FTP and then refresh the IE, which brought back memories of back in the days of dial-up, right? Where you couldn't use the phone and the computer at the same time. Because if you picked up the phone, it would hang up the modem on your computer. It would make I remember being in high school and the computer was in my bedroom. So I'm sleeping one morning and my dad must have snuck in to look something up on the interwebs. And my mom must have picked up the phone because all I remember is waking up to my mom running down the hallway yelling at my dad, "I cut you off, I cut you off." Let's just leave that at that. Anyway, back to Sublime Text. So this was this tool, and it's this great tool. I would say this. I recommend to people who aren't full-fledged developers to go ahead and use Notepad++ because it's a lot more user-friendly. But Sublime Text, if you learn how to use it, the configuration is all done via JSON. And if your question is what's JSON, then Sublime Text isn't for you. But when you learn how to configure it, and how to pull in these plugins, I pull in plugins so that when I'm developing at work and I'm network connected into the custom web root, I got a plugin that's called File Sync. And when I save a file on my hard drive, it says, oh, this is synced to this remotely mapped drive on the development server. And when you save it here, push those changes to that server. And I found a similar thing that connects to an FTP site and says, oh, when I save this here, that means you want to push those saves up to that FTP site as well. So Sublime Text, I can't say enough good stuff about it, except that it's really hard to configure. All I can say, my strong opinion about whatever text editor you're using is learn how to use it. I'm just always learning new little things. Just a year ago, I learned that if I hit Control-Shift and the up or down key in Sublime Text, it'll take my currently selected line and move it up one line or down one line. And that might seem like, oh, yeah, big freaking deal, guy. But you know what? When that's what you do all day, every day, and I don't have to highlight that code, Control-C, move down, Control-V, I mean, Control-Shift, arrow up, it saves you. It adds up. Learning how to use it.
We could reference back to John Dunleavy's XKCD, about time saved and how many times you're going to do that in a day.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that was your whole job, Eric. You just move lines of text around all day.
He doesn't use the rest of the keyboard. Have you seen his keyboard? There's like six keys that are like grayed out. Everything else is pristine.
The thing is, usually you hear Eric's keyboard before you see it. Because he's got to bust out, even at a conference, he's got to bust out that clickety-clack keyboard. He can't type on a laptop keyboard like a normal human. He's got to get this thing out and bang on it.
I'm a diva. I cannot type on a laptop keyboard. No, I don't actually have to type much, though. It's pretty much just go to Stack Overflow and then copy and paste. And then you move the lines up and down until it does what you want it to do.
There's an extension for VS Code that if you have a JavaScript error while you're like rendering something, it just jumps out and searches that error on Stack Overflow and then dumps the code that it finds from the first solution back into your project.
No way.
That's a joke too. No, that's not real.
See, you see why I did.
That's a good joke.
Hey, guys, on that note, stay tuned. Come back in 2 weeks. Check out the second part of this episode. We will be anxiously awaiting you. But until then, Take care. See you next time. Happy Sumbits. Again, if you have any episode ideas, any feedback, let us know at sumbits@mba-link.com. And an extra special thing, we are wanting to bring in one of you as a guest to one of our podcasts. Reach out to us if you'd be interested in that. We would love to have one of you guys on the show. All right, guys. Until next time, take care.
Peace out.
Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Enjoy more episodes and learn more at mba-link.com.